from Force 13 HQ and from our contributors from around the world. This is April 15th, 2018. Hello and welcome to a special tropical weather bulletin. So special because it's so unspecial, because it's the middle of April and there's barely any tropical activity out there at all. My name is Nathan Foy, and this evening I'm joined by one of my companions, Cesar Gamez. Cesar, how are you?
Thank you, Nathan. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm very good. And yes, as you said, we have practically nil activity in the whole tropic, so of course, nothing.
Take a look at this.
Too special.
This is Invest 90W, which is active in the Western Pacific and is the only point of interest anywhere in the world right now. And it is just east of the island of Yap in Micronesia, and some parts of the Invest thunderstorms associated with the system are affecting the Mariana Islands. Yeah,
the system is quite disorganized, trying to have some development there, but it's not expected to develop as a tropical depression either yet. But it's looking pretty healthy in sort of way, but I don't think it will be like more activity in the next days after this system dissipates in the next days, as is expected to move to the northwest gradually.
Well, I was looking at some of the models earlier today, and only one model, and I think that was the NavGem, picked up on this system at all. And the NavGem had the storm just sort of having the same intensity all along and moving off towards sort of a west-northwesterly direction. There's really nothing to come of this storm, of this system.
Yeah, and of course the winds are pretty weak of this system, as I said before, trying to gain some organization, but overall it's pretty disorganized, very well, the structure itself is so wide, but without any structure there. As you said, only thunderstorms affecting Yap and Mariana Islands. So
but
practically there's nothing to add with that system because it's useless, to be honest.
But this is the Western Pacific, and as we know, it is the Western Pacific, and it's going to do a jello-watt. There we go. Wonderful. Well, under normal circumstances, that would be the end of the Tropical Weather Bulletin, but because we've not done it for such a long time, we are bringing them back, by the way. That's why you're seeing one right now, and we will be bringing back the usual format very soon indeed, hopefully immediately or near immediately. Daily tropical weather bulletins, especially when there are systems active. So look forward to that. But in the meantime, me and Cesar are going to talk about Force 13's Atlantic hurricane prediction that came out last week. If you haven't seen it yet, take a look at what Force 13 is predicting for the Atlantic this year. 12 tropical storms, 6 hurricanes and 2 major hurricanes, according to our prediction, which was issued last week. Chance of below average activity 45%, near average 30%, above average 25%. Cesar, any thoughts on them numbers?
I'm pretty how is called the word? I'm pretty sure that this season will less active than the last season we had.
Well, you won't get a medal for that, Cesar.
Well, yes, I mean, it's evident because first all the energy that was, let's say, used after it was accumulated for nearly 4 years, or 4 years approximately. So
fair.
This season tends to be a little bit more average in general, but of course, as you posted in the last week as well, in some potential severe cyclones trackings, one of the threats are goes to the Yucatan Peninsula and maybe from the Bahamas and the Hispaniola as well.
I think I've got to take issue with your first comment, actually, come to think of it. 2010 was really busy, followed by 2011 and 2012.
Well, yes, it was really busy as well. it's not difficult. Well, it's kind of not
2010
difficult.
was
But
the biggest, though.
yeah, the third most active in history, tied with 1995 and 1887. Well, the 2017 just took another. Well, it did something that wasn't expected for all the meteorologists.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it was a very destructive season, deadly as well. And well, we hope that this season we can see another spectacle like that again. But yeah, I think this season will be more normal, to be honest, in terms of named storms.
Well, let's take a look at the Atlantic key messages. This is what Force 13 has conjured up for the Atlantic key messages this year. I'll read it out. No areas are at an enhanced, that's higher than usual, risk of a major hurricane landfall in 2018, Category 3, basically saying that all areas are at an average risk for climatological purposes. There is an enhanced risk of hurricane activity, Category 1 or higher, along the United States East Coast, north of Florida, and an enhanced risk of hurricane activity in Atlantic Canada. A significant risk of hurricane activity in Bermuda and on the Yucatan Peninsula, and a potential further tropical storm or hurricane impact in Harvey-affected areas from last year. And a high probability of one or more wandering hurricanes far out at sea. Hopefully not a Kyle or a Nadine or a Ginger, but if it's going to happen, it could be this year for a storm like that. Cesar, your take on all of that?
Yes, I mean, I don't want, of course, that this could happen, but since 2007, that Yucatan Peninsula hasn't received a significant storm.
Yeah.
I think the last one was June of 2007. Yeah.
And prior to that, they had major hurricane landfalls for fun.
Well, regularly they have major hurricane landfalls because it's a very vulnerable place.
Yeah.
And because the Caribbean is in general very warm. But
none for 11 years?
It's been exactly 11 years. And I don't remember that it.
I'm just trying to think if we've forgotten any, but I can't think of any Category 3 plus that hit Yucatan since then.
Exactly. The last one before Dean, of course, was Wilma of 2005, yep. And there was Keith of 2001, yep. I think.
2000. I was going to mention that next. Didn't Roxanne hit as a Cat 3 in 1995?
Exactly, a Cat 3.
So, one every 5 years or so, and it's been 11.
Exactly. So if it's not this year, soon it will happen again, and that's why people should take really serious this forecast, because who knows, everything could happen. And well, just hope that anything bad could happen if this is the case.
Here's another way of looking at it.
Of course,
tropical storm percentage chances shown here, Cesar, in these little funky circles. The darkest coloured circle there is just off the Outer Banks of North Carolina. According to the forecast, the highest chance of tropical storm conditions, though that's not saying much, I suppose. But that might be hurricane central for land areas, but who knows?
Yeah, of course, that part of the east coast of the United States has to take a watch of it, because since Sandy, I guess it was the last time that the whole east part of the United States was affected by a tropical cyclone directly.
Yes, I mean,
no, it was Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur. People were mildly worried about Arthur.
Yeah.
It didn't really live up to it, really, did it?
No, Arthur.
It was a Category 2, though. People forget that one quite quickly. They probably already have.
Yeah, it wasn't a significant storm.
Another one from that year, Gonzalo. And that was one that affected Bermuda, and Bermuda's under an orange circle there as well.
Yeah, Bermuda is very vulnerable to storms. Well, it's very vulnerable to, of those storms as well. The last one I remember was, well, the last severe system directly affected Bermuda was Nicole, and of course it's why the dark yellow color. I think it's dark yellow. I don't know.
Well,
I can distinguish, or green.
Where now are we looking? On Bermuda still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's orange on Bermuda. I just want to point to your attention, Ponta Delgada in the Azores. 50% chance of tropical storm conditions there as well. What do you think of our chances of seeing another Gordon or another Ophelia?
Oh, well, it could be possible, and since we have so many
and then you'll ask me which Gordon, 2006 or 12, because they're both very similar.
Exactly, that was a very strange coincidence. But yeah, we have so many more storms of major intensity traveling in those locations that are not common. So, of course, this is a...
Here's also the chance of hurricane conditions here. And you can see there, you know, not as many places are lit up as much. Still the Outer Banks, Nova Scotia notably there as well, and the Yucatan.
Yeah, as I said before, Yucatan, I'm pretty sure Yucatan will receive a major hurricane, or at least a hurricane directly. So that's why I insist to the people that should take a lot of attention of what will gonna happen in the next season, because as we talked before, it has been 11 years since a cyclone, or a severe cyclone, haven't affected the Yucatan Peninsula, and sooner or later it will be the time.
And here's
so
the
people
chances
must be prepared
of major hurricane conditions this year. And if you remember the graphic of last year, this is much different. The chances of major hurricane conditions we assess appear to be much less this year than it was last year. To remind everyone, okay, we'll try and get it out. Oh, there it is. The 2017 prediction showed this. 35% in Cuba, in the Yucatan, didn't verify in the Yucatan, did verify in Cuba. The Bahamas are in there, the Lesser Antilles not. That was a little mistake there, but still above 0% chance at 5. And if we look at the latest prediction, that is not the case.
Yeah, well, we haven't, well, Yucatan Peninsula haven't received a hurricane the last year. Of course, the remnants of Harvey, Tropical Storm Franklin, and that's all, I guess. Yeah.
But do you agree with the idea that there's going to be less major hurricane threats this year? Or do you not?
I think I don't agree with that. I think this season Yucatan Peninsula has more chances of
course,
threat.
Region by region, but overall, considering we had so many last year.
Yeah, well, overall, I guess I'm agree with that, but in a specific part of the Yucatan Peninsula that maybe could have more chances of major hurricane conditions, it will be the border of Belize and Quintana Roo.
Now you can also see low chances along the Mexico-Texas border there as well, and slightly north of there, which will certainly worry people who are affected by Harvey for a potential repeat. We can't rule that out as well, but it looks, well, we can't really rule anything out, I should mention, but it looks as though chances of a anywhere east of New Orleans down to Florida and up as far as Georgia have a lower than usual chance of something significant this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, of course, we had Harvey last year, and people of Texas haven't recovered yet of that disaster. So of course, it's a point to watch. Even that the possibilities aren't too much, but who knows? The Hurricane Harvey intensity wasn't expected at all, and of course, people hadn't all the time that they needed to prepare.
We're just showing now another look at the number of storms we're expecting this year. You can see the black line there is the 1966-2009 long-term average, and it also has the average day of formation there as well. We're not just making those numbers up. We are, well, we might be for this year, but those are the average days. I mean, we don't really read too much into that, just the final value and maybe little trends. For instance, we are expecting a busy start to the season. That's more than 2 storms by the end of July. We're expecting 3. And through the mid-season, it's pretty normal, and maybe a strong end to the season as well. We could see that on the cards. The lines above the emboldened green 2018 forecast line is the previous 2 years. 2017 up there in the purple and 2016 in the sort of yellow-orange colour. As you can see, it won't get to those giddy heights on our forecast. That's what we're saying right now. Of course, this could change over time depending on what actually happens and whether we see a climatological shift at the last minute.
Of course, and well, all the graphics that you're showing there, well, of course, it's evident that the season of the last year was really, really active, and the forecast of the season tends to be a slight more, according to the average from 1966.
Yeah, that is for hurricanes as well.
So hopefully we could have this activity and not that bunch of active storms that we have the last year that was tremendous as well.
Of course, and finally the major hurricane prediction there, which I've also marked there. We are expecting 2, that a 20% chance of seeing 3 or 4 major hurricanes in 2018, which 4 would put it on par with 2016. I think there's not any chance that we're going to get to the 7 produced last year.
Yeah, it's...
And 3 of them being in August as well, which doesn't typically happen at all.
Exactly. I think the last time that happened, something like that, was in, what, 2008 or 2000? No, 2005, I guess. Pretty long time ago. And of course, this year, according to the forecast, it won't happen again. About that amount of major hurricanes, which is great news. Mm-hmm. But the important part doesn't mean how much intense are these storms. If the most important thing is if those major hurricanes are going to impact land or not, and this is a point to take in consideration, because of course at this point we cannot expect something yet. Only the estimators have shown before, but I guess the possibilities are higher in the Yucatan Peninsula,
as you can see by one of those tracks there. So that is our outlook for this year. We don't profess to know completely everything, but those are our best guesses at this time. We also can't rule out this year any more of these Cape Verde type storms that develop and go and impact the Lesser Antilles. That also can't be ruled out. although I do expect at this moment in time that those storms might move a little bit north of those islands like we saw in, I'm guessing 2010 I suppose is what I'm thinking of there. But of course we can never really be sure until the storms actually present themselves. Cesar, is there anything else you wanted to add before we finish up here?
Well, just moving a little bit to again to the forecast of the 28th season. I really hope we could not see something like we have saw the last season, and I encourage people to stay alert every time, and of course to get prepared in time in case a tropical cyclone threat is up. But
all right.
That's all for now for me.
And from me, thank you very much for joining me, Cesar, this evening on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin, which has been a little bit bare because, well, the tropics are, so we thought we'd do something a little bit different. But the Tropical Weather Bulletin series is returning, and we'll hopefully be doing nightly updates like we used to do in the good old days.
Exactly, yeah.
If we're still struggling for activity tomorrow, we'll be doing an Eastern Pacific outlook, and if not, we'll be talking about real storms and doing that outlook at a later date. But from now, from us, myself and Cesar and the team, on their behalf, good night and stay safe and keep watching them tropics, because you never know what might emerge out of those 16 Celsius Atlantic waters.